Good afternoon, good morning, good night, good evening. Wherever you are, whomever you are, welcome, welcome, welcome back. If you have not been here before, welcome too. We are Voice in the Wilderness, and we are a ministry focused on the written word, the document, the biblical narrative that we call the Bible, the Torah. From Genesis to Revelation, we call it the Bible. The Jewish segment, the Hebraic segment, call it the Torah. I call it the Torah too. It's the Torah. But for the general population, I guess we could call it a Bible. That should suffice. Should. We have been in this study about the 10 words, the 10 matters, the 10 laws, the 10 things. We have gone into words, just any word. Doesn't have to be biblical, doesn't have to be religious or spiritual, just words as a whole. We talked about that at length. I think it took us two and a half sessions to do that, to really explain from my point of view, from our point of view, the gist, the foundation, the importance, right? The power of a word, any word, the significance of, right? Why are words so important to us? We are a human race. We are human beings. And we do everything that we do through words, whether it's words we interpret, whether it's words we think of ourselves, whether it's words we listen to, and so we dealt with the simplicity of the reality of the importance of words. We even went on to say that words, right, like matter of factly, are really very important to our very lives. Right. Those are the first two sessions. And then we began, as we did, reading from Exodus chapter 20, which is where we're going to go into in this study. We are still looking at the 10 words. So far, we have covered words as in general as a whole. We did the first word, the second word, the third word, the fourth word. And I think we are going into the sixth word, right? So if I can look through my Bible, I'm not a scholar as many of you are. You'll probably have them, you could know the count forward and backward and in between, and you could count every other word. You could count them from the 10 on through the first. You could count them in even numbers and odd numbers. You could probably, you'll blow me out the water. Me, I got to go back and I got to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. That's my count, okay? And the last word we talked about was the Sabbath. It's kind of interesting, as we discussed, how that word, that instruction, that thing started with remember the Sabbath day. And we talked about that at length in the last session. Why would God say remember? I would think he wants us to remember everything he says. you know? I would think that from the very first thing to the very last thing he says, he would want us to remember, right? But if we read Exodus 20, and God spoke all these words saying, I am Jehovah your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt and out of the house of bondage. Even that in itself doesn't have the word, I want you to remember this, or I need you to remember this, or please remember this, or keep this in the back of your mind. But just reading it, just, I am Jehovah your Elohim who brought you out of the land of Egypt and out of the house of bondage. Just saying that alone would cause you to understand that they were in a predicament. He brought them out. He wants you to know that. The only way you will know that is if you remember that. I think the last time we talked about living in the past presently, I didn't say it like that, which now that I say that, it sounds really interesting. Living in the past presently, because it's kind of ironic. You're saying living in the past. Well, how can you live in the past presently? Right? But if you think about it for a second, that's how memory is. Everybody, a lot of people talk about future, tomorrow, and well, tomorrow isn't promised. Tomorrow, none of us know. Give me 1 second, hold on. This is funny. I didn't mean to go here until I mentioned it, until I just mentioned it, and so let me kind of go for a little bit. All right. Listen, I am, and I'll say right off the bat, I'm not a scholar. I'm not a person living in the upper echelons, right? I don't think I'm smarter than everybody. If I can be candidly honest, you would not like to know how I think about myself, right? I'm not wiser than the next man, right? But I do listen. I do love to listen. And it's really, really, really interesting, some of the things you hear, right, when you listen. And as I just said, trying to bring us into what we talked about as a method, as a way of continuity. Last week I did talk about how the past is, and I did refer the past to be something in the present. But in saying that, I didn't say it how I just said it, which was we are living in the past presently, which, as I said it and as I think about it, is a really, to me, that is a phenomenal statement. Because of time, right? And how we deem what is past and what is present. You see what I'm saying? Because if I look at the recording, at the time on the recording, I'm looking at 9 minutes and right now 45 seconds. But it's not 45 seconds anymore. Now it's 9 minutes and 50 seconds. So 45 seconds is in the past, That part, when it was the 9 minutes and 45 seconds, that's past. But I'm still here talking about the present things. So it gives us a little look-see, a little insight into how could we be living in the past presently, right? Because the words are two different words, and they have different connotations and all these things. And as we were saying, when we were questioning God with regards to the reason why he chose remember the Sabbath in this moment, to say the word remember, right? When in the very beginning, in essence, he's trying to get them to remember because of what he said. I am Jehovah your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. So they had to remember where they were. They have to remember all the things they went through. They had to remember what happened. They had to remember who was dealing with them and who was talking to them, including Pharaoh and the Egyptian soldiers and chariots and the Red Sea and all these things. They had to remember that to have any kind of clue of understanding who is talking and what this person is saying. Right? And that is, those things happened in the past. Because at this moment, they were at the mountain, they were at the foot of the mountain, they were all gathered together, and God was speaking to them from the mountain. Right? And so God was telling them who he is, present, and was reminding them of what he did, where they were, and what he did for them to bring them to this place that they are in presently. So that's living in the past presently. Oh gosh, I'm liking that statement more and more the more I say it. Right? And he goes on to lay out some things, some matters, some concerns, as if God is concerned, that some things that he needs them to remember. He needs them to know, right? Well, it's interesting, right? It's interesting because the only way you could know something is if you heard it, if you saw it, you tasted it, you smelt it, you know, something, you felt it. You know, right? You had some, whatever you saw, heard, smelt, tasted, and touched, whatever those things were or are, you got an impression of what those things is. Oh my goodness, this is, wow. Excuse me for a second here. Is this going to be one of them days? It's one of them days that the boy goes through. Oh boy. They would have had to remember, think about, understand the experiences they had while they were in Egypt, right? While they were in Egypt, it wasn't always bad, right? Remember, they were in, where were they when they came up into Egypt? Where they were, Jacob and the sons? Can't remember. Shinar, somewhere, I can't remember. But remember the story when the brothers encountered Joseph, they didn't know him, and so on and so on and so on and so on. Eventually, he revealed himself, and they told him his father is alive, and he, you know, he sent them back and they brought up the father. And Pharaoh told Joseph to give them the land of Goshen, which was the richest, best, quality place to live in. So that's where they went, right? So quality of life and all that was like really at a premium, right? Their brother, Joseph, was second in command of Egypt. So if your brother is second in command, you're going somewhere to happen, as the old folks would say, right? That doesn't mean that you have to be wicked and evil and go do nasty things for them to cover up for you. That just means that you are in a place of prominence. You don't have to be well known, but the fact that you are who you are and your brother Joseph is where he is, that means Joseph, where he is, going to make sure and take care of you. Right? So, and then after Pharaoh died, which, listen, we've gone over this story. So you know it. It's not like you don't know it. I'm just bringing you into today, into the present. Remember, we're living in the past presently. And so what is happening is, for God to speak to them, they would have had to have some kind of knowledge, some kind of idea, some ideal, something about their past. To look at where they are now and say, yeah, okay, I believe you. Right? So, I am Jehovah your Elohim, he brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. So he's making that point to say, hey, listen, nobody else did this for you. I am the one who did it for you. I kept you in Egypt. I made sure you were okay. I lifted up Joseph. I took care of, your father, your great-grandfather, and so on. I'm the one who's been behind this thing all the time. And I need you to understand that. I need you to know that. I need you to believe that. And now I need you to begin to do these things so that it will work out for you. It will be to your benefit. Kind of, in essence, what he's saying, right? And then we talked about, no gods, and and we talked about how that was and how mankind is, right? We stop. We just think that word, that one that come to your mind, that it was in my mind too. I didn't just let it out of my mouth, but that same word that came to my mind, we think that word, right? And so he's building these things. He's laying them down, to me, in a real phenomenal way, right? Because, as I've said in I think when we dealt with this first word, and even before that, I think he dealt with the most important thing, the thing that we tend to do first. The thing that we tend to cleave to the fastest. I think that's the thing he dealt with, which is don't have no other gods, right? First to begin, we think we gods, and secondly, we think those of us, as in those human beings who belong to this race, who live and work and operate in the upper echelons of society, sometimes we give them the prominence of being gods, right? So he's addressing that issue as the main issue, like as an issue. This is like the number one thing. If we go back to the garden, right? If we go back to the garden, and let me just say this off the cuff, as I just noted about me not being more brilliant than the next person. I was listening to a gentleman on my way to do this recording, talking about the behind the story. It's like a behind the scenes story about what happened in the Garden of Eden. I don't know how he know that, but listen, you believe what you want to believe, okay? I've said it. I'll say it now. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I believe God knows exactly who he created. I believe God operates in the simplistic things of life, in the simplest things, the easiest things. Even though the easiest things could be confounded with wisdom. The easiest things, I don't know if what I said made sense, but even in the easiest things, the simplest things could be so mind-blowingly wise that we can see the forest from the trees, as they would say, right? But when you read the Proverbs and you talk about study the ant and all these things, you realize God is using the things that we are aware of, the things that we know about, the things that are here, that are present, that are current, to teach us deeper things, okay? To teach us deeper things that are simple, right? And I really and truly believe that we human beings, we are the ones who just fail to see the simplicity in God's words. And we choose and we try to be so deep and so mystical and spiritual and so inept and so adaptive and so theologically accurate and so spiritually deep that I think we push aside the simple message, which is really what God wants us to understand, right? And we conflate things and confuse ourselves, right? And when people cheer and clap for us, it's like this. It's like somebody standing up on a podium giving a speech, right? And they do it. I recently just went to a graduation, and the gentleman, the keynote speaker, those keynote speakers that they have in all these meetings all over, right? Now is college season, people graduating and so on. So we have these keynote speakers who a lot of them think that they have to come out and use big words, and use elaborate stories to get across their point. I don't think God is like that. I really don't believe it. And you don't have to believe it with me, but when I read the word, I see all these simple ideals and these simple ideas, right? That makes so much sense that to us, no, that's too easy. No, it's got to be something deeper. And I think that's where we miss, and to allude to that, this is what Paul wrote in the first chapter in the book of Romans, that God chooses the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. Why would God do that? Why would he try to confound the wisdom of the world if wisdom is what we're supposed to be driving and seeking after? James, after all, says, if any man lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who giveth who giveth without measure. If you ask God for wisdom, God is going to pour it on you. He's going to give it to you, right? But I want you to also know this. Wisdom is not something that can be received like a dollar bill or a $20 bill or $1 million, right? Or a check, right? That's not how wisdom is received. Wisdom comes from actions. Yes. Yes. I know you might think you ask God for wisdom and God say, okay, here's wisdom. Here's $1 million worth. No, that's not how it works. Wisdom comes from actions, right? Wisdom comes over a period of time. Wisdom comes by seeing things, by doing things, by hearing things, by listening, by connecting. Wisdom comes in those ways. Wisdom doesn't is I'm gonna pour over you a bucket of wisdom and there you go, you receive wisdom. No, that's ask Solomon. Ask Solomon, right? Ask Solomon. He was the wisest man ever lived. Solomon was, and you see how much stuff you see how much stuff he was involved in. And one of the commentaries that I read some time ago said that Solomon didn't. This might blow your mind. Solomon didn't do the things that he did because he just felt like doing some, like he was rich and famous, and so he could just do whatever he wanted. No, 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 no. The commentator said Solomon did the things he did so that he could get a result. And the result is what he was after. And because he was after the result, he could then now make a determination and, oh, if you do this, this could be the result. Or that probably is going to be a result. Like for instance, when you rebuke a scoffer, right? He will hate you. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that, Solomon would say. When you don't argue with a fool, because then you look foolish too, even though you might be smarter than the fool. But when you get into an argument with somebody who is a fool, you also look foolish. You see, he could only say these things after he did these things and he got a result. Like, don't think that you could heap coals of fire in your pants and not get burned. Stuff like that. So when Solomon speaks, he knows what he's saying because he's experienced it. Literally, he's practiced it. Right? And he's sharing that with us so that we don't have to go and practice it. We could read it. We could get the gist of what he's saying. Well, obviously, if there's a barbecue pit outside and I take a shovel of hot coals and I put it in my pants, then I can't do that and think that the coals is just going to be like, oh, he's such a godly person. He's such a deep-rooted spiritual Christian person. Oh, he believes in Jesus. So the coals are going to sit there and not do him anything. No, Solomon says, if you heap coals of fire in your pants, you will get burned. You will. Not if, you will. Right? So don't test God. Don't go do it just to see. He did it. And he may not have literally put coals of fire in his pants, which I don't think is what he was saying, but he used something that he experienced, something that he did and got a result from, and now is trying to make the corrections or is trying to lead somebody else in the correct path. I don't know how I got off on that tangent, but I did. So we have to go back. Let's go back to what God is saying, right? We have to get it. God, in all his wisdom and vastness and greatness, is not trying to give us riddles and talk to us in parables. Even Yeshua, even Jesus said that. He said, I talk in parables to them. But when it comes to you, I talk to you plain. I tell it to you plain. And maybe the rabbi who I was listening to, maybe he need to go read what Jesus said. I know he may or may not believe in Jesus. I don't know. But maybe he need to go read that because that's profound. Jesus, Yeshua, said, when it comes to people who believe in me, people who believe in God, I don't talk to them in parables. I speak to them plainly. It's everybody else. The unbelievers, what they hear, they can't understand it because songs like gibberish to them. It's like, what? What do you mean heap coals of fire in your pants and you? I don't understand that. But you should, because you're a believer. At least you say you is. So we're talking about God addressing these issues, right? And from my perspective, he's addressing them in some kind of an order. I believe that the first one, you shall have no other gods before me. I believe that one is a big one. And we have to understand that. We have to know that. Why would he address it first? Why would that be the first one? God is not like us, because, we say, in speeches, we hear this a lot. We say, well, I'd like to give thanks to my mother, my father, my cousin, my uncle, my 3 sons, my 2 daughters, and last but by no means least, my wife. Right? We've heard people make speeches, give speeches, for whatever the reason, and they're thanking a group of people, right? And somehow, they put them in their head, they put, that's why they say last, but by no means least. Well, what does that mean? If she wasn't least, you would have called her name first. See, that's the stuff we do. And that's the excuses we make when we say stuff out of turn. That's not God. God doesn't talk like that. God doesn't say, I have promised your fathers Jacob, Ishmael, Isaac, and Abraham. That's not how he says it. He says Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Because he puts first things first. That's how God operates. That's how he operates. First things first doesn't mean for God that's the most important thing. And that's, like you could do it, all the other things you don't have to do as long as you do that. No. But there's an order. He likes to do first things first. Everything else you must do, including that first thing. Just like Yeshua said. Well, which is, all the commandments, but on these 2 hang all the law and the prophets. On these 2. Love God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength. And the next one is like it. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. On these two hang all the other instructions. The other instructions are connected to these two. They're not separated. Okay? They're not separated. They hang over them two. They're like a hanger. The two is in the wall and the hanger hang off of that. Because if you don't put two nails or one nail in the wall, how is the hanger going to stay on the wall? He's not negating the importance of the others, okay? That's not what he's doing. He's just letting you know these two are the first two. These two are the foundation. Should I, because the foundation is below, should I do it like this now? These two are the foundations. And on that foundation, all the others are built. Listen, we have to get it right. Okay? And I believe one of the reasons why we are not getting it right, or we are slow in getting it right, is because we don't take time to think. We're busy doing the next best thing, the next biggest thing, looking for the next deepest revelation. Right? I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I was telling him, I said, no, for me, it's hard to read a whole verse. Like, what are you saying? Are you, what's that word they use? Not hypocrite. Gosh, you know, that word that I'll remember it. But when you backslide, no, not just backslide. God, come on, people. What's the word? Oh man, I can't remember the word. Anyway, how you could say you can't read a whole verse? That's not what I meant. That I just cannot read a whole verse. No. Of course I can read a whole verse. I said it's hard now to read an entire verse because sometimes you read just a few lines in the verse and you immediately begin to see all the ramifications of those few words that you read. So much begins to happen that it's hard to even finish the verse. Not that I won't or I can't. And I believe that's how it's supposed to be. We read too much. What? You study the word too much? No, I ain't say you study the word too much. You read. All them words you're reading, you're not paying attention. Too many words. Sometimes we just need to read 1, 2, 3, 4 words and be like, okay, let me sit down and think about this. We know we're not thinking about stuff. We're not thinking about stuff. We're not examining things, okay? We're not looking at things. We're just doing stuff vicariously for votes and for thumbs up and for claps and for cheers. You know, we want the crowd running around the church dancing. You know, we want people jumping off the seat and screaming, hallelujah! That's what we want. Anybody could do that. That don't mean nothing. Why is God making these statements? Don't have no other gods but me. Why? Where did that come from? Is he just making stuff up as he go? No, he's not. That's why these words become so important. Every one of them needs to be isolated, and we need to take time. Spend time thinking about them. Asking ourselves the tough questions. Am I doing these things? Because you very well might be. I very well might be. So we talk about the first word, then we talk about the second word, which flows right off the first word. Don't have no other gods before me, then don't worship them. Don't offer them no kind of credence. Don't give them any kind of impetus to think there's something, because they're not. And we do all the time. All the time. To the extent where now, right? Now, today's world, you ask somebody their name. Oh, my name is, I am Dr. Blackwall. Or I am Dr. Pinkwall. Or I am Dr. Blue Wall. That's not your name. Your name is Blue Wall, Pink Wall, Black Wall. Your name is not Dr. Blue Wall. See, when I was growing up, lawyers and doctors and, those things were titles. What's your name? Blue Wall. And they put your title at the end of your name, Blue Wall MD. Or Blue Wall THD.M, or whatever the theological degree signs are. Pink Wall Esquire for the lawyers, peoples. It's flipped. Something that simple says a lot. You know what says a lot? Yeah, I'm gonna say this. Here's what says a lot. Phones, cameras on phones. From the first time whoever it is given credence for the creation of the camera. From that day on, everything about life changed, and we got more selfish. And you see people, you talk to people, and every minute they're taking a what? Selfie. It's a picture of themselves. Right? They have selfie lights in all different shapes and forms. When you think about those little things, you see how we've gone. I was listening to another a little clip from listening to a gentleman saying that we have today's society, today's humanity, we have lost desire. We have lost that depth of spirituality. We have lost that inclination to be thoughtful when it comes to spiritual things. That's out the window. That's out the door. Well, all those things that I just named, they form part of society today. People calling themselves Dr. So-and-so. People calling themselves, they don't call themselves, pastor. Everybody's pastor so-and-so. prophet so and so. You know, the cart comes in front of the horse now. When I was growing up, the horse was in front of the cart, pulling the cart. The person driving the horse was hitting the horse, telling the horse, turn left, turn right, go up, go faster, come slower, or whatever. Now, the cart is rolling downhill, and the horse is saying, hey, what about me? What about Bob? Oh, gosh. That's where we are. So people are putting their titles and using their titles as their first name. My name is Bishop Pinkwall. Because if you don't call them Bishop Pinkwall, God's going to curse you to die. You know? The cart is before the horse. If you don't take 15 selfies of yourself every hour, something is wrong. So you got to make sure and be always looking at click, click, always. You see it around. That's where we are. Nobody listens no more to anything. Everybody is waiting. They're silent because they're waiting to express their opinion. Oh, gosh. You see 3, 4, 5 people around a table and they're having a conversation, and one person talking, everybody is silent. They're not listening. They're not listening. They're waiting on an opportunity to make their opinion, to state their case for why they think a thing is supposed to be a certain way. That's what. We have to, as believers, we have to change that. We have to listen to what God is saying. Always listen to what God is saying through His Word. God speaks through His Word. His Word is written. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Are we doing that? Don't bow down to them. Don't pay them no obedience. Don't give yourself over to them. Because the moment you start to obey what they say, you're bowing down. Are we doing that? Then he talk about don't misuse my name. Stop misusing my name. God say, the Lord say, Jehovah say, everything. Excuse me, did I? But God said to us in Deuteronomy 18, don't be scared. Don't be afraid of them. Let them talk. They will be held accountable for what they say that I said. Because when I say something, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. When they say something, all you have to do is watch and see if it happens. And if it doesn't happen, then I never said it. See, and I'm still sticking with the 10 words, right? But there's so much things that are popping up, right? So much things that are popping up. This idea that somebody says something to you, and 60 years later, you're still waiting for that thing to happen. And I want to be careful saying this. I'm not saying that it will never happen. Right? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, God said to us, go read Deuteronomy 18. He says, if a man or a woman speaks in my name and the thing does not happen, Don't be afraid of that person. That person spoken presumptuously. If a man says something, if a man call himself a prophet, a pastor, evangelist, minister, whatever name they give themselves, if they say, so thus says the Lord, or this is what's going to happen to you, and 60 years later, you still waiting for it to happen, you got to ask yourself this question. God, really? You say if the thing don't happen, you didn't say it. How long do I have to wait? You think God is going to have you waiting 60 years for it to happen? Really? That's the kind of God you think you serve. God is going to wait 60 years. I don't know where we get these kinds of things from, right? For instance, God spoke to Jacob and Esau's mom, right? Remember that story? The children was fighting in the womb. And the mom, who was barren before, decided to go to God. She's like, this ain't right. Something ain't right. Cause I want kids, my husband want kids. He come to you, he ask you, so for us to have kids, you give us kids, and now I feel like I'm gonna die? Something ain't right. What's going on here? Let me go find out. So she goes to find out. And what happens? God tells her. God prophesies to her. Right? God makes a promise to her that there are two nations in your womb. The one will be greater than the other. Right? There are two peoples in your womb. And the older the older is going to serve the younger. That was the prophetic word God spoke. A prophet didn't come and tell her that. At least the narrative didn't say anything about a prophet was passing by and see her over there under the tree. And the prophet said to her, thus saith the Lord. No. The writer depicted the idea that it was God who spoke to, I think it's Rachel. Okay, don't hold me to it. I can't remember the name, but Isaac's wife. Let's put it like that, right? So, what did she do? You don't read anywhere in the biblical narrative where the mom told the son, God said, this is what's going to happen. So, this is what's going to happen. We didn't read that in nowhere in the passage, in the story. But you do see in the story the mom influencing and instigating things that she thinks should take place so as to promote the story, so as to not promote the story, but to make the story become true. Right? Well, if God tells her this is what is going to happen, okay, maybe I might have a part to play. Maybe this part right there when I say, hey, your dad, he's old, he can't see good. Hey, Esau going out anything there. Dad is getting ready to run the blessings, to share the blessings. You better get me a piece of meat. Let me go cook it quick. I'll give it to you. You put on some goat's hair on your hand. Don't worry. I'll put on some of Esau's clothes. Don't worry. I can fix all of that. Whatever happens, let it be on me. That's what mom did. Yeah, many people say, well, he went along with it. Well, yeah, he did. Right? And people berate Jacob for that. But Should I berate Jacob for that? Why? Why should I berate him for that? I'm sure many of us have been in positions where we just went along with stuff that we didn't approve of entirely. I can't put my head on a block, but I'm pretty sure that there are many of us being in a situation like that. So I'll leave that right there. Jacob didn't know. So was Jacob looking forward to a prophecy that he don't know what time it was going to take place, what year, nothing? Abraham, God prophesied to Abraham. Abraham was looking for that prophecy, however. Abraham was old already. He was what? When God first spoke to him, he was what? 70 years old? But you see, the thing about that, God kept coming to him and telling him. So let's just say he was 70. I can't remember his age. Don't hold it against me. We're still dealing with the word. And these things are important for us to learn and understand. God says to Abram, get out of your father's house and go to a place I will show you. Abraham obeyed. But God kept talking to Abraham about the promise that he's going to make, about the promise that he made, and so on. God, every so often, God will come to Abraham and tell him and remind him. Sarah got this bright idea, well, if I'm barren, I'm sure I have a cute little girl over there. She served me. She's my maid. So go lie with her and I'm going to claim as my child. And they tried that. And what happened? God said, yeah, I see him, but my covenant is not with him. My covenant is with Isaac. Isaac wasn't even born yet. He said, that, I see what you all did. But I ain't making no covenant with him. That was not my promise. That was something you all concoct. Did God say anything to Isaac's wife about what she did with Jacob? I can't remember there being a rebuke for Rachel. You know? I can't remember. If again, don't hold me to that is Rachel, because if it's not Rachel, then I'm sorry. But you know who it is? I think Rachel is, because I think is either Rachel or Rebecca, right? Because Abraham's wife, his first wife was Sarai. I think his second wife was Keturah, right? So I ain't talking about them. I ain't talking about the other two wives, the Isaac wife and not even Jacob's wife, because I think, no, Jacob's wife was Rachel. Yeah. Or Isaac. I can't remember. Somebody, you know the story. Have me racking my brain here. Anyway, I can't remember there being a rebuke for that mom for lying to her son and getting her son involved in this deceitful thing with regards to that thing that the oldest son's supposed to get. Golly, I'm lost for words now. This the right to the firstborn. It's the mom. She instigated that whole thing. Saying, whatever, let it be on me. Which is a thing that they used to do. People used to do that. Because they're trying to help God. They're trying to help their children get to the place where their children need to be. Hey. God sure, did God rebuke Sarai about what she did with Hagar? I know God went to Sarah and Sarah laughed, and God said, like, why did you laugh? I said, I didn't laugh. That wasn't laughter. That was I was not laughing. I was serious. I was not laughing. God, I wasn't laughing at that. I just remembered something Abraham told me, last month, and that's why I laughed. She concocted this thing about go with Hagar, and they got, Ishmael. Ishmael was born, and then God kept coming back to him to tell him, hey, I made you a promise, and I intend to keep that promise. And this is how things are going to unfold. At a certain time, I'll come to you, and Sarah will give birth. And Jacob said, well, no, not Jacob. Abraham said, well, what about Ishmael? Let Ishmael do it. He could be the one. How you could tell me that's not an indication of doubt? I don't get it. How could anybody say that was not doubt? He said, let Ishmael walk before you. It's like he's telling God, okay, I hear your promise, but yeah, we have a son here now. God said, yeah, I see that son, but that's not the son that I'm talking about. I'm talking about a different son. What that conversation is about? What was that about? Doubt, unbelief? What was it about? So some prophet or somebody tell you 60 years ago that this is going to happen. Have God spoken to you intermittently during that 60 years? Or you just vicariously going off of what that person said? Are you convinced what the person said? Or you so convinced about the person that you think that person is so close to God that God is going to tell that person something and don't tell you anything? Again, went off on different tangent. But we're dealing with these words which are important to us. Because we do all these crazy things based off of words. The word of a man, the word of a woman, the word, this word, that word, somebody say something. And we believe, and a lot of times we believe the person because of who we think the person is. We don't believe God, we believe the person. And that's like putting the person in front of God. Right? Because if God tells that person something about you, God could tell you the same way. And if God chooses to tell that person first, then that's fine. God could do whatever he wants to do. But at some point in time, God will tell you. The angel met Mary. The angel told Mary, you will be pregnant, you will give birth to a son, you will call him his name. Mary was supposed to be a virgin. And it happened. And what happened? Guess what? She was engaged though. You think God is not going to tell the husband to be, the fiancé? What's the husband name? Whatever his name was? Joseph? Yeah. You think God's not going to tell him? No, I told Mary. I don't need to tell him. Mary will tell him. Yeah, Mary will tell him, but will Mary convince him? Will he be convinced? Will his love be so strong and so deep? Like some of us who say we love God. And God can't convince us that the thing that you doing or saying or refusing to be, or the thing that you trying to acknowledge, or the things that you're supporting, or the things that you're doing is not of him. He said, don't misuse my name. That's where we were. Do not misuse my name. You attach my name to all these ungodly things and say that I am okay with it. Don't do that. I'm not okay with that. Then he says, remember the Sabbath. Where does this word come from? That's how we started off this whole thing. We did that last week. We did that week before. 2 weeks. He wants us to remember. And we dealt with that word from the male perspective, right? We dealt with that word from the procreative perspective. We dealt with that word from the perspective of memorializing God and his character and his deeds and his acts and his mannerism and all the things that make him God. This is what that is about. It's about he created us to memorialize himself. He made us like him. He burnt this image into the dirt that he wanted this dirt to look like. He burnt that image just like we burn a CD. We talked about that last week. Right? And then, for the next few minutes, we will talk about this word here, this 5th word or 6th word, depending on how you look at it. He says, see, it's not there because he just thinks it needs to be there. It's there because he wants it there. He purposes it to be there. Then he says, honor your father. We in Exodus, I didn't tell you all. I'm going to tell you all now and give you a chance to get there. We in Exodus chapter 20. Verse 12. He says, honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land which Jehovah your Elohim gives you. Honor your mother and your father. Now I can testify to this because I remember as a kid, a teenager, growing up, right? And if you've listened to me for any length of time, you probably would have heard me say that when my dad was alive, that me and my dad did not have a good relationship at all. I hated him. I used to say it. I never wanted to be like him. I used to say it. I think he was not an appropriate fatherly figure. It just was not good. And there was one time that anything he could be called, if he called my name, and he could have been calling me to give me the inheritance, whatever inheritance. He could have been calling me to give me all the money in the world. The mere fact that that I am hearing his voice calling my name, just that alone got me teed off. I would get angry just by that he would call. I didn't want him to even say my name. Don't say my name, say my name, no, don't do that. It just irked me in the worst way. And I remember having a conversation with my mom. And I was expressing to her how I felt. Oh man, sometimes I wanna do something. I wanna hurt him. I wanna do something to hurt him. This is me expressing how I felt to my mom. And my mom stopped me in my tracks, stopped me in my words, and looked at me and said, "Boy, don't you ever dishonor your father. Don't you ever disrespect your father. Don't you ever raise your hand against your father." And she said that. And for her to say that, you would have heard me, if you've listened to me for any length of time, you would have heard me also describe the relationship that my mother and my father had. It was not good. Not good at all. I literally saw my father hit my mother, beat my mother with a broomstick, push her out the door. One of my older sisters was on his back, screaming and carrying on, begging him to stop hitting her. And he kept swinging that stick. So when I tell you what I'm telling you, this is not from two people who adored their father. Or this is not from a woman who adored her husband. Absolutely the opposite. Yet she said to me, don't you do it. And those words has stuck with me from that day till this very moment. And every time I think about this word, Exodus 20 and 12, every time I think about it, I absolutely remember that conversation. The word says, honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land which Jehovah your Elohim gives you. Honor your mother and your father. What does that mean to you? What does that mean to me? What does that mean to Adam? What does it mean? What does that mean to you and to me? What do these words mean? Therefore, a man will leave his father and his mother. Are you serious? You just said honor your father and mother. And now you're saying, therefore a man will leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. See, this was the command that God gave to the man and the woman in the garden after he created them both. Who was their father and their mother? That God would say to them, leave and cleave. Who was their parents? after God created everything, including these two human beings, who had a mandate to procreate and fill the earth, burn more images of himself in the earth. Not more images of the man, more images of God. Because the man, the image of the man, God burnt as his image. So now the man has to burn the image that he is burned in. Right? It's like we have this CD and it's awesome. And my buddy asks me, hey, can I get a copy of that CD? I'd be like, what? Can you buy a copy? Can you buy one? Come on, man. Just slop it in the drive and burn me a CD. And you know, you used to do that back in the day. And so you burn one copy. And then here comes another. So, man, I was over there by Black Chair and I was listening to that. Man, I was like, can I get a copy too? Really? I had to burn another one? Guess what? I'm burning a copy of the same songs. It's not different songs. He's getting the same copy that he had. Because the copy I burned is a copy of what I wanted, what I liked. You see what I'm saying? So the man was burnt in the image of God. And the man was given the ability to burn more copies of that image of God. And then God told the man, therefore a man will leave his mother, his father and his mother, cleave to his wife. Why you can't leave the mother and the father? These are things we have to think about. Why did not God say that a man should leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife? God says leave his father and mother. What does God mean by putting the father first? What is he? What dost thou mean by this? Leave the father and mother, not the mother and father. Why does in separation edicts and divorce edicts, why does the mother end up with a child? Who gave the mother that right to be with the one, to be the advocate for the child? Should it not be the father? If the father is leaving the mother and father, if the father is leaving, if the man, the male, is leaving his mother and his father and mother. See, I keep conflating them, right? You see how easy that is? If the male is leaving his father and mother to cleave to his wife, why does the edict, in most cases, reverse that verdict? The child should be with the father. I know I'm opening a can of worms. I know I'm opening a can of worms, man. But we need to understand these things. We need to understand these things. For too long, we have taken things for granted. Okay? He said, therefore, a man will leave his father and his mother and will be joined to his wife, and the two will be one flesh. Exodus 20:12 says, honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land that Jehovah your Elohim gives you. Leave your father and mother. Honor your father and mother. Okay. I want us to talk a little bit about the word honor. What does that word mean? Because it seems like we don't know. We can't remember. We don't think about it. According to the Brown's Driver Briggs definition, the word honor is kabad. And that means to be heavy, be weighty, be grievous, to be hard, to be rich, to be honorable, be glorious, be burdensome, be honored. To be heavy, to be insensible, to be dull, to be honored, to be made heavy, to get oneself glory or honor. To make heavy dull, what sense can we make from that? Well, let me explain it like this. To honor somebody is to make that person heavy or heavier than you. See, you make the person heavier than you, what happens? That person is up, and because they're heavier than you, they automatically that weight will push you down. Because that is heavier. That heaviness simulates weight. So you consider the next person better than you. You give them more weight than you. You don't take the weight for yourself. You give the weight, the honor to that person. And as a result of you making that person heavier, it puts you in a subordinate position. It puts you in a position of humility. Because you have put that person above you. Isn't that amazing? That Paul says, don't think too highly of yourself, but think soberly, lowly and soberly, and so on and so on. Right? Espousing the other person above yourself. So when we run around here looking for honor, we're looking for other people to put us up. See? No, 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 no. It starts with you and me. Put your father and your mother. Give them the weight. Let what they say have more weight than what you say. That's what that word honor means. For instance, if you know anything about the military, right? If you go in the military at, let's say, the lowest rank, let's just say you're so skilled at what you do, so good at what you do, that you begin to be promoted, right? You go from 1 to 2 to 3, or I'm just using that counting ability. At a certain level, when you get to, let's say, 5 or 6 or 7, there becomes a requirement to that level. When you hit a certain number, then everybody that's below that number would start to honor that person that is at that number and above with a salute, So whatever rank it is that equates to the person in the military that gets their first salute as let's say as an officer. In the fire department, you come in as a firefighter, and you're promoted firefighter. There's no such thing as a senior firefighter as an official rank. Now, you could be a senior firefighter in terms of you're an older person, you're still a firefighter, right? You never got promoted to the next level, right? And then after coming in as a firefighter, the next level is what we call a fire sub-officer, right? A fire sub-officer, which is FSUBO, fire sub-officer. And that person is endowed with 2 metal tabs, or whatever you want to call them, on the 2 metal bars. There you go. On the shoulder, right? On each shoulder, 2. So that the firefighter going to work, if he sees a 2 bar on the shoulder of a firefighter, he doesn't have to necessarily salute that person because he knows, oh, he's just 1 rank above me. That rank doesn't need to be honored in terms of a salute, but honored in terms of respect, in terms of, well, he is superior to me. You go from a fire sub-officer, the next rank is a fire substation officer, right? And that rank, the acronym is FSSO, substation, right? That rank is recognizable by somebody wearing 3 bars on each of their 3 silver bars, chrome bars they call them, right? 3 and 3. That person, when they have on the uniform, and those 3 bars represent them as a fire substation officer, which is senior to a fire sub-officer, senior to a firefighter. Firefighter, fire sub-officer deserve some honor, not a whole lot, but some. Fire substation officer deserves some honor, more honor than the sub-officer, but not like a saluting type of honor. Then you go from a fire substation officer to a fire station officer. And it's at that rank, when a firefighter gets to that rank, fire station officer, his uniform changes and his rank changes, obviously, and his honor changes. So before, his uniform comprised of a gray shirt and black pants, or a black, dark blue, navy blue, thick firefighting sweater, right? And if he's a officer, he will have the markings on his sweater also, right? But the sweater is common to all firefighters, no matter how high you go up, right? The ranks are the markings on their sweaters as they go up. So he would go from gray and blue, or from blue and blue, to wear khaki. Now he's khaki shirt, khaki pants. But if he's going to fight a fire, he's not going to wear that khaki. He's going to wear this firefighting stuff. See what I'm saying? Because even though he's a fire station officer, he's still a firefighter. He still has the ability to fight a fire, even though he doesn't have to. So his uniform changes. He's now a fire station officer. He has one oak of wreath, and a wreath of oak, and something. I can't remember the description, but he has like a star or something. Not a star, it's a circular wreath of oak leaves, right? If I can remember. But because he's now in khaki, there you go. Everybody else below him, including the fire station officer, the fire sub officer, and the firefighter, they have to salute him. And the typical salute is the first time you see him. So if you see him in the morning, you salute him. And you don't necessarily have to salute him another time during that day. So if you see him again in the same day, you don't have to salute him. You can, but you don't have to. That's our way of honoring those people as they go up the ranks. Because they have more weight, right? More responsibility, more education, more technical ability, more knowledge, all that stuff. As they go up, they should have those things going for them, right? Like firefighting knowledge and skill and all those things, right? They go up. And so from there, it starts there. So from the counting system, like I was doing before, if I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, then it starts at number 4, right? Because 1, firefighter, 2, fire sub officer, 3, fire substation officer, 4, fire station officer. So from 4, I would add more weight. 3 will be less weight, but it'll be weight nonetheless. 2 would be less weight than 3, but it still will be weight nonetheless. I hope that gives us a better idea of when we honor somebody, that's kind of what we do, right? We don't honor them because we like them. We don't honor them because, we honor them because of their position, right? Like my boss. I wouldn't talk to my boss like if I'm talking to a child, right? Because my boss he's my boss. I wouldn't scream at him as if he's my friend. You know what I'm saying? But you honor them because of their position, right? So he says, honor your father and your mother, right? This is God. But if you honor your father and your mother, Your father and your mother, they are just human beings. So you got to recognize that the father and the mother is like the fire officer, the fire sub-officer, and the fire substation officer. And God, he becomes like the fire station officer. Only he's not a fire station officer. He's more like a chief fire officer. You get my point? So you honor your mother, yes. You honor your father, yes. God, Father God, you honor most. But it also works in reverse. In other words, when you honor, the more honor you give to your human father and mother, is the more honor you can give to the one above them. You follow? So, that's the word. Fifth word, sixth word, whatever word it is. It's so he starts with saying who he is and what he did, and then he starts with the first issue, which is of tantamount importance: have no other gods before me, which will include what? Your mother and your father. Right? Because if your mother and your father is saying, go over there, steal this, go over there, steal that, and he says to you, don't do that or don't do this, but you do it because your father and your mother say it, that could run you into some trouble. See? Because you honor up and you honor down. But he who sits at the top gets, obviously, because he's at the top, gets the greatest honor, the highest honor. So when he says, thou shalt have no other gods before me, it's kind of the same way of saying, honor your father. And if you want to throw in mother, then it's, hey, I ain't mad at you either. Right? It's like saying that. Honor me to the point where you're not going to honor somebody else more than me. So all I'm saying is, in these 10 words, in these 10 things, in these 10 matters, is everything is tied in, connected, right? It's all part of the same story. They all hang from the same premise that he is God, and beside him, there is no other. And if there is no other God beside him, then all road leads to him. And if all road leads to him, then if you come into him, you have to come correct. We'll end there for the day. Next time, we're back. We'll kind of start again like how we do. We bring you in. We bring you in from this week. We'll go over a little bit and forge ahead, right? Some of these words are simple, and like I said, real easy, but I think digging into them a little bit, thinking about them a little bit, like I said, not trying to overdo, just focusing on that little portion for the day, for the time, and keeping that in the forefront of our minds. I think, that's what I encourage everybody to do. We read, some of us know the Bible like the back of our hands, man. Some of us have so much information, so much knowledge that it's there. We have to We have to get all the applications correct. You know, it's like you can't have Microsoft Word on your computer, and when you double click on it and open it, you know, there's no way to type. There's no page, you know. But I have Word, but I double click on it, I open it, and I can't get a page. I can't put A, B, C, D on the page because I can't get a page. Let's focus on getting that page up there. Once we get that page up there, we could type. All right. In closing, turn your Bibles, Numbers chapter 6, verse 22 through 27. In closing, I would repeat the priestly blessing. It's the priestly blessing. It's the Aaronic blessing because Aaron was the high priest. Tremendously awesome words. Tremendously awesome. If we could think about these words just a little bit too, we can glean so much of what God has said. Okay. Oh boy! All right, you ready? Are you there? Number 6, verse 22 through 27 reads as follows. And Jehovah spoke to Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, In this way you shall bless the children of Israel. Say unto them, Jehovah bless you and keep you. Jehovah make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. Jehovah lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. So they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. So God is instructing the high priest how to bless them, the children of Israel. He says, say these words. And when you say these words, my name is going to be etched on them. And I will bless them. But how will I bless them? I have to see my name on them. When I look at them, I have to see my name. Well, how am I going to see my name? I'm going to see my name by how they speak, by how they act, by what they say, and by what they do. That's going to tell me, then my name is written on that. Not physically written. But I'm going to observe all the stuff that they do. And I'm going to know in my heart of hearts, that's my son. See that one over there? That's my daughter. See how they're talking and acting? That's my image over there. That image over there is my image. That one over there is my own. That one over yonder, that's my image. All these here is my images. See that one over there who's committing murders and stealing and cheating and lying and doing all that stuff? That's not my image. That's another image. I hope that there was something that was said. I hope that there was something that was done. I hope that there was something that happened in this last hour and 45 minutes that spoke to your heart. Until next time, be blessed. Shavua Tov, Shabbat Shalom, Arrivederci, Adios, Bonne nuit, buenas tardes, buenas noches, buenos días. Bye. See you soon.